Hi everyone, this is Daniel Rawat here. Today I'm gonna discuss about some cybersecurity terms along with their meanings and uses and importance. So let's jump onto it. Firewall, a security device or software that monitors and controls incoming and outgoing network traffic based on predefined security rules. It acts as a barrier between a trusted internal network and untrusted external networks such as the internet. Now, what is encryption? The process of converting data into code to prevent unauthorized access. It ensures that only authorized parties can access and understand the information, even if intercepted. Now, let's talk about malware. Malware is a malicious software designed to disrupt, damage, or gain unauthorized access to computer systems or data. Examples include viruses, worms, trojans, ransomware, and spyware. Now, let's talk about phishing. Phishing is a cyber attack method where attackers impersonate legitimate entities to trick individuals into revealing sensitive information such as login credentials or financial details or to download malicious softwares. Now, let's talk about vulnerability. A vulnerability is a weakness or a flaws in software, hardware, or network systems that can be exploited by attackers to compromise security. It is essential to identify and patch vulnerabilities to prevent exploitation. Now, let's talk about patch. What is patch? A software update or fix released by vendors to address security vulnerabilities or improve functionality. Applying patches promptly helps protect systems from exploitation by known vulnerabilities. Now, what is two factor authentication? A security mechanism that requires users to provide two different authentication factors to verify their identity and access a system or service. It provides an additional layer of security beyond password. So the example is SMS code or email code. Now next is RDS. What is RDS? It is a tool or software that monitor network or system activities for signs of malicious activity or policy violation. It alerts administrators to potential security incidents for investigation and response. Now, next is IPS. It is a security system or software that monitors and analyzes network traffic to detect and prevent potential security threats in real time. It actively blocks or filters malicious traffic to protect the network from attacks. Now, let's talk about DOS attack. Denial of service is an attack aimed at disrupting or disabling a network, system, or service by overwhelming it with a high volume of traffic, requests, or data. It prevents legitimate users from accessing the resources. Next is distributed denial of service. We call it DDoS attack, a variant of DOS attack where multiple compromised systems are used to launch a coordinated attack against a target network or a service. It amplifies the impact and makes mitigation more challenging. Now, let's talk about the zero-day vulnerability, a previously unknown software vulnerability that is exploited by attackers before the vendor releases a patch or fix. It poses a significant risk as there is no available defense against it. Now, what is penetration testing? It is a security assessment method where ethical hackers simulate cyber attacks to identify vulnerabilities in the system, network, or application. It helps organizations proactively identify and address security weaknesses before they are exploited by attackers. Now, let's talk about social engineering. What does it mean? Social engineering is a psychological manipulation technique used by attackers to deceive individuals into revealing confidential information or performing actions that compromises security. It exploits human behavior rather than technical vulnerabilities. Now, next is endpoint security. This is a security measure deployed on individual devices. Devices means endpoints, such as computers, laptops, smartphones, and tablets, to protect them from cyber threats. It includes antivirus software, firewalls, encryption, and device management tools. Now, data loss prevention (DLP). This is a set of technologies and policies designed to prevent the unauthorized disclosure or leakage of sensitive data. It monitors, detects, and blocks the transmission of sensitive information outside the organization's network. Now, let's talk about SIEM. SIEM is a security information and event management, a security solution that collects, correlates, and analyzes log and event data from various sources across an organization's IT infrastructure. It helps identify security incidents, monitor compliance, and facilitate incident response. Now, let's talk about ransomware. Ransomware is a type of malware that encrypts files and locks computer systems and demands a ransom payment from the victim in exchange of decrypting the data or restoring access. It is a significant cybersecurity threat to organizations and individuals. Now, let's talk about virtual private network. We call it VPN. A secure network connections that encrypts internet traffic and routes it through a remote server, masking the user's IP address and enhancing privacy and security. It is commonly used to access sensitive information or bypass geo restrictions. Now, let's talk about patch management. The process of identifying, acquiring, testing, and deploying software patches and updates to address security vulnerabilities and improve system stability. It is crucial for maintaining the security and integrity of the IT systems. Now, let's talk about the incident response plan. It is a documented set of procedures and guidelines outlining the steps to be taken in response to cybersecurity incident. It defines roles and responsibilities, communication channels, and mitigation strategies to minimize the impact of security breaches. Now, let's talk about the access control. It is a process of regulating and restricting access to resources, systems, and data based on user roles, permissions, and authentication mechanism. It ensures that only authorized users can access specific resources or perform certain actions. Now, let's talk about the network segmentation. Dividing a network into multiple smaller subnetworks or segments to enhance security and control access. It isolates critical assets and limits the scope of potential security breaches or lateral movement by attackers. Now, let's talk about the MFA, the multi-factor authentication, an authentication method that requires users to provide two or more authentication factors such as passwords, biometrics, smart cards, or tokens to verify their identity and access a system or service. Now, let's talk about the security awareness training. Educational programs and initiative aimed at raising awareness about cybersecurity threats, best practices, and policies among employees. It helps individuals recognize and respond to security risks effectively. Now, let's talk about the data encryption. This is a process of converting plain text data into ciphertext using cryptographic algorithm to protect it from unauthorized access or interception. It ensures that only authorized parties can decrypt and access the data. Now, let's talk about the data masking. A data protection technique. It is a data protection technique that replaces sensitive information with fictitious or obfuscated data to preserve its format and usability while preventing unauthorized disclosure. It is commonly used to anonymize data for testing or development processes. Now, let's talk about the security policy, a set of rules, guidelines, and procedures established by an organization to define and enforce security standards and practices. It outlines expectations, responsibilities, and consequences related to information security. Now, let's talk about the security audit. It is a systematic evaluation of an organization's security controls, policies, and processes to assess compliance with security standards, regulations, and best practices. It helps identify vulnerabilities and gaps in security posture and recommended improvements. Now, let's talk about the cyber threat intelligence. It talks about information about potential and existing cyber threats, including threat actors, tactics, techniques, and indicators of compromises, IOCs. It enables organizations to anticipate, detect, and respond to security threat effectively. Now, let's talk about the security operations centers, or we call it SOC. This is a centralized unit or team responsible for monitoring, detecting, analyzing, and responding to security incidents and events in real time. It serves as a nerve center for cybersecurity operations within an organization. Now, let's talk about security controls, technical or procedural measures implemented to mitigate security risks and protect assets from threats. Example include access controls, encryption, firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and security policies are part of security controls. Now, let's talk about the web application firewall, a security tool and application. A security tool or appliance that monitors and filters HTTP traffic between web applications and clients to protect against common web based attacks such as SQL injections, cross site scripting, and cross site request forgery. That's CSRF. Now, let's talk about the Cybersecurity Incident Response Plan, SERP, a documented set of procedures and protocols outlining the steps to be taken in response to cybersecurity incidents. It includes incident detections, analysis, containment, eradication, recovery, and post incident evaluations. Now, let's talk about Secure Software Development Lifecycle, SSDLC. It is a set of practices and methodologies for integrating security into the software development process from design to deployment. It aims to identify and mitigate security vulnerabilities early in the development lifecycle. Now, let's talk about red team and blue team. A cybersecurity exercise where red team are the attackers simulates the cyber attacks to identify vulnerabilities and test defenses, while the blue team, the defenders, defends against the attacks and evaluate security controls and incident response capabilities. Now, let's talk about the security risk assessment, an evaluation of potential threats, vulnerabilities, and risk to an organization's information assets, systems, and operations. It helps prioritize security investment and allocate resources effectively to mitigate identified risks. Now, let's talk about the security incidents. A security incident is an adverse event or occurrences that threatens the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of an organization's information assets. It includes unauthorized access, data breaches, malware functions, malware infections, and other security breaches. I think that's all from me now. Thank you for listening to me. Please give it a thumbs up and leave comments below if you are interested to learn more about any specific topic. If you haven't subscribed already to my channel, please consider subscribing for more learning videos in the future. Thank you.